Even if I did, I don't know if I would quit, but I doubt it. It's taken by the thought of it. But I know this much is true. Baby, you has become my addiction. I'm so strung out of you, I can barely move. But I like it, and it's all because of you. And it's all because of you. Oh, it's all because of you.
Good morning, Tina. How are you? How's how's everything? Happy New Year.
She's the sweetest drug. Think of it every second. I can't get nothing done. Only concern is the next time I'm gonna get me some. No, I should stay away from, cause it's no good for me. Touch it, won't let me leave. I got a problem tonight. Oh, even if I did, I don't know if I would
Good
quit.
morning, Doc.
Good morning.
How's it going?
It's another day in paradise.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. I am well, Tina. I am just saying hello to everyone in the chat. And if you're wondering who's next to me, I'll get to that in a second. And Tina is our wonderful moderator. She'll be making sure if anything gets out of line in the chat, she'll take care of that for me. So I appreciate
Not a
that.
bouncer in the room. All right, Tina.
That's it. Tina's not playing no games. Good morning, Nora. And while folks is coming in, Happy New Year to everyone. Yes, I have a guest with me, and I will explain who the guest is. I know you're like, what's going on? I'm used to just seeing Mr. Keith on today. But yes, I have somebody on with me today. We're going to have a conversation that I felt needed two sides, since we actually have a slightly different view on some things we're going to talk about today. But I'll get in that in a second. As you guys come in, if this is your first time here, let me know where you're checking in from, where in the country are you checking in from, so we can greet you the proper way, so I can say hello. And if you've been here before, again, come in and say hello and introduce yourself. So shout out from Ohio. There we go. Hey, Nina. Good to see you. And good to have you here, Nora. Happy New Year to you as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good to have you back, Nora. Yeah, today we're going to be talking about Katt Williams. I know everybody else is talking about it, but me and the doctor have a little different conversation we're going to have, because I want to not just sit back and just talk trash. I want to actually have, and you know what we do here is to have intellectual conversations in a safe space. So I'll get to all that in a second. Let me introduce myself. I am Keith K.L. Belvin, crisis specialist, human service counselor, author, educator. Y'all know I wear all those hats. But more importantly, every Friday from 11:30 to about 1 o'clock or 1:30, if the conversation is going well, we'll stay on. And I'm here every Friday to try to have a conversation about toxic relationships, personal development, or anything that comes in between. This is a safe space. Let me just say that. And what that simply means is that if you come in here on some foolishness, we don't engage trolls. Tina will get you. If she don't get you, I'll get you second. Because everybody that comes into this space is safe, and they have the opportunity to say what they say. If you do not agree, that is fine, but we always have respect, because we're not always going to agree. But this, like I said, is a space that is for everyone. Now, let me just fill some of you in on what's going on. The webinar is set February 18th, 2 o'clock to 3:35, and it's only $24.99. Stop playing. That's less than a meal if you order them from Grubhub. So you can actually say, I'm going to skip lunch, or not the big lunch. Hang out with me for an hour and a half. We're going to do a deeper dive into toxic relationships, and it'll give us a chance to really get into something uninterrupted for an hour and a half. The link is up in my bio, so you can go to my bio. You'll see the link for the webinar. Click on it, and we're good. All right. Also, the book is doing well. So shout out to all you guys who have purchased the book. My book is going to play a role in this too, because I'm going to be able to cover some of the things from my book. So some of you that have it, bring the book with you. And if you have not gotten the book, you can get the book beforehand to kind of brush up on some of the things that we're talking about. But again, all of this is leading to what's going to be our own private space. So let me just say that now. I've talked about it before. but we're leading to a private space that I am creating that's going to give us an opportunity to get deeper into the conversations. And you can know that what's talked about is protected. And that's, for me as a professional counselor, that's something I do on a regular. And it's not just a HIPAA thing, it's an ethics thing for me, but it's also a safety thing. When we're talking relationships, when we're talking about healing, we're talking about a lot of sensitive things. And I want you, as the person inside the group, to feel comfortable that if you want to share why your marriage didn't work, why your relationship didn't work, or what the relationship with your children or your parents is, I need you to know that you're protected and you're safe. And that's why I'm not using or going to use some of the regular apps that you may be comfortable with. But I need you to rock out with me as I build it. It'll be there for you. They say build it and they'll come. Well, this is what I'm doing. And so that I want to say. Now, sticking with the same format, we have a special guest here. But before I get to the special guest, and I know I keep teasing you like, well, tell us who she is. I got you. First and foremost, I want to say to everybody here, and I know people will start piling in as they come, how was your New Year's? Put it in the chat. Let me see what's going on. Let me see what you did. Unless you're old like me, I prayed out the old year and I prayed in the new year, and then I just relaxed with some wine. So it was my wife, my daughter, and Stella Rosa. Stella Rosa Black,
Hey.
by the way.
Hey.
Tina, yours was peaceful, Tina? Okay. And Nora, who else we got here? I think we got 6. I know folks will start to come in. I jumped on a little early, but I'm not worried
Look,
about it.
wait a minute. Look at here. The struggle to make it to that midnight hour.
That's when you know you're getting old.
Listen, first of all, from 5 to midnight was 24 hours. I believe that with everything in me. And my husband's like, wake me up at midnight. Now I got a job to do. It's too much.
And
I
I
lost everything I could to stay awake.
So you're not doing. My wife was nodding on me as well. So, and I see a lot of the folks in the chat are along with us. Prayed out the old and went to bed for midnight. Got you. Prayed and chilled and slept in the new year. There we go. See, this is a safe space for the 40 and up. I just want to know no one will be judged here for talking about they got some extra sleep or they struggle to stay awake. We had an all-night worship event we ran. Okay, was amazing. Very nice. I like the sounds of that. And that's important, guys, because, again, I think for 25 years, I have spent every New Year's Eve and New Year's Day praying out the old and praying in the new. And I actually haven't went to an event or anything because I literally just stay close to home. I think it's after living all those years in New York and seeing all the things that happen and how many folks is too inebriated when they're out and about. I just felt, you know what? I partied enough. I'm going to stay close to the house. So let's see. Laura says, my New Year's was blissful. Okay, I like that. I got you.
I like that word, blissful.
Got you. And you know what? And to be a caretaker of time, allow me to introduce my special guest. Now, this is Doctor. Let me and when people earn their titles, you give them their love, you give them their flowers. This is Dr. Terkessa Colvin. She's not just a mentor, she's a friend, but she's also a woman that is filled with knowledge and wealth of it. And we were having a conversation about Katt Williams, and we talked about coming live, but I want you to get to meet her. And I want you to understand that she's also somebody that after we get finished talking or when she leaves, because she may not be here the whole time with us, I want you to go follow her. And I want you to pay attention to her because she is a strategist who will help you move from the position that you're in to a higher level. Now, she's not to be played with. Let me just before I allow her to introduce herself, let me just explain. Don't show up wanting to play games. Show up wanting to do work. Because I can honestly tell you in the last couple of years of her helping me, she has granted me clarity that I didn't know I needed until I heard her speaking. And then in hearing her speak, it touched something in me because it reminded me that I knew what I was doing. I just didn't know how to do it the right way. And she helped tie those loose ends up. And then once I did the work, she was able to point me in a better direction. But Doc, you can introduce yourself better than I can. Let them know who you are.
Listen, I thank you so much for just, laying the foundation for me. So I am Dr. Terkessa Colvin, and I am a business strategist. And one of my gifts outside of strategy is seeing people. And I see the stuck points that hold people back. And so when Keith and I were talking about, just off the line, when we were talking about Katt Williams, yeah, everybody has their own opinion, and I can't wait to talk about this. A little bit more about me: I have a doctorate in organizational leadership and management. I have a fabulous husband. Don't try me, I fight. I have, I have a fabulous husband. He's super supportive. Two grown kids, two fur babies, and a grandkitten, y'all. Um, yeah, my daughter called from college and said, "You got a grandkid." And I was like, "A what now?" So, yeah, all those things happening. And I've written 21 books at this point. Former TV show host. I used to host a TV show out of Atlanta. It was in multiple markets from New York to Texas to all the different things. And my thing is this: I have this belief that if you can dream it, you can do it.
Amen.
That's it.
And Doc, thank you. And see, guys, I'm not going to share the screen with just somebody sitting up here playing around. We're not going to do that because I normally don't open up the box and have nobody up here because I know I can do this myself. But when you share your space, you want to share it with somebody who everybody around you is going to get something from. And I can tell you this: if you listen to when we're talking, and if you listen to what Doc brings to the table, she's going to help you, because I can tell you, because it helped me. Because as she was talking, I was like, okay, I get that. Even if you're not here for business, let me just say that to everybody listening. This is still a woman of God too. And when two people get together, we know what happens. So when I'm already here with you guys and now I add somebody else, the Lord is going to pour some things down to all of us as we go through this, which I hope he does. And I think he does every week. Yeah. That when this camera's off, you'll have something that you can kind of go back and go, I might need to think about that a little bit more, or I could take that to my circles. Now, let me just go through some of the rules because y'all already breaking them. I don't see any hearts going up here at the bottom of the screen. What's going on now? Now, we're not going to leave Tina out there to be tapping the screen because Tina about to have like carpal tunnel doing the chat and tapping the screen. So I need y'all to help Tina out, which means, and I'm going to tell you why, that's the heartbeat of the room. That lets Doc and I know that you're enjoying what we're talking about. But also, I told you before, I have ADD. And the hearts, for whatever reason, it goes back to Periscope, lock me in on paying attention. I will not be playing any music today simply because to repurpose this, I don't want any music in the background. I normally will play it when I use it, fine, but not because Doc may want to use this as well. And Dr. Tarkessa, and I like saying that because I know how hard she worked to get it.
Worked my groove thing off, y'all. I worked my groove thing off.
Yeah, every week I got carpal tunnel. I know, you know what, I got you. You know what? And you know what? I'm gonna have to mail you like a little wrist support or something like that. But I got you. You keep it going. But you guys gonna help Tina out. If you have questions, when I can get to them, I will. I'm not gonna ignore anybody. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat. Tina will catch it, or I'll see it, and we go from there. Because again, the conversation is to bring everybody something that they can gain from. Okay? So if we're good and everybody's good, let me just check. If y'all are with me, who's here? I think we got a few people here. I want you to put ones in the chat. Oh, okay. Siri wants in on the conversation. Everyone here in the chat, put a 1 in the chat if you're ready to go. All right. And the numbers will go up. Also, if you can, share it out to your circle so people know we're here. Hey, B-Love. Happy New Year. Hey, Natisha. I got you. Hey, Nina. So put 1 up. I see y'all are ready to go. Also, share it out to your circles because I can't reach the world, but with your help, we can. And so that's what we're going to do is so some folks are going to need this because you're going to hear a lot of conversations about Katt Williams, and that's okay. It's supposed to be. It's a hot topic. But we want to talk about, is it a positive or negative to the community? So let me just say that what the focus of the conversation is. Doc hit me up and said, I know I may see this differently. Actually, you know what? Let me shut up. Doc, what did you tell me in the DM?
In the DMs.
The DM, yes. It goes on in the DM. Yeah.
Here's my thing. So my perspective is, I was like, what do you think? Because I have a perspective. And I want to say this, positive or negative to the community is going to be subjective. There's no right answer.
Exactly.
Even as I was thinking about this after we, got done chatting yesterday and decided that we were going to meet up here, I got something for y'all that is going to change the game for you. So we're going to put a pin in it, but I promise you, hold on. And I'm going to share something with you that's going to be like, ooh. So when I was reaching out and I was talking to Keith, he says, Basically that's this dude's truth, right? And he does a lot in the community. He does these things to support up and coming comedians. And my perspective was this: you were in the spotlight. That was the moment to talk about those things. Um, and this is not about censoring or anything like that. Your truth is your truth. But my perspective, as someone who's done media, as someone who understands marketing psychology, and all of that, my perspective was like, you got the spotlight on you. Talk about you. Talk about the things that you're doing. Talk about, I call it spilling the tea, and not like y'all think, right? Spilling the tea is teaching, educating, and or engaging and activating the audience. He had the opportunity to teach people who he is, what he's doing, what his mission is, what he stands for. That was a teaching moment for him. Yes, I know he a comedian. I get that. But with so much noise in social media, spilling the tea the way that I'm telling you is a game changer. He had the opportunity to engage, educate, and say, hey, you know what? Did you know, I'm just putting this out here, there's support groups for comedians. I don't know if that's a thing. I'm just saying. Did you know you could support my mission? Did you know? Like, that was an opportunity for that. And to activate, look here, I'm on tour. I want to see y'all. We've been outside, sort of, for 3 years, but I want to see y'all. Can you imagine how much more powerful that interview would have been from
So you
that perspective?
just gonna go with the hard stuff early, right? You just gonna go with the hard, and I respect that, and I don't disagree.
Yeah.
I think looking at it, and it's funny that you said what you said, because I did the same thing. At first, I was like, and then I said, is he? And I had to do some research. That's why I sent you the what's thing this morning. And when I went back to try to look at, it's a 3-hour interview, first of all. So if y'all go find it, I wasn't sitting watching the whole 3 hours, but I got a lot from it. I think for him, I don't think he's as comfortable in that arena that you're speaking of, because a lot of the things that I've been able to find on Katt, he does quietly. Like, he doesn't want you to know. Because I remember seeing him when I was getting my car worked on, when he was doing his interview with Sherry Shepherd, I think is her name. And I remember she said, there's a lot of things about Katt you don't know. And she started to run down about the things that he does. And it made me start thinking, because I heard Deion Cole say the same thing. Katt gives money away. He does things that a lot of folks have no idea. And then I'm thinking about it, I said, he may not want folks to know that part, because it might be something that taps into a different part of him. And I think because of the way Shannon Sharpe allows folks to be free on his show, I believe he knew that drama was going to sell. Like, I knew when he took those shots, he knew, I let these shots off, it's going to create buzz to bring you to the show. But I also think he was shooting from a position of pain. Now, I got to speak from the counselor part of me.
That's the part.
I think he was shooting from a position of pain, because the people that he shot at are people who have gotten notoriety in ways that I think he feels. And again, this is all conjecture at best, because I've never met the man. And as I've told you guys many times, I don't go on things that I don't know. I need more information. But just from what I've seen, in my professional opinion, I believe he took shots at folks because y'all made certain strides. When you took things from me, and you act as if you're better than me, when we all know the truth, or I'm going to give you my truth. Because he also, in his truth, shouted out Bernie Mac, shouted out some of the others. And I honestly think that's as much of it, because they were also drinking. Let's take that into consideration. And I think they were drinking real booze. I think that's the alarm. Yeah. And the liquid courage was like, man, go ahead and say what you got to say. And I think that mixture is what created that pathway that he took.
Yeah. So let me say this. 3 hours? No. I got ADD is a real thing, y'all. I'm not going to do that. And so, as opposed to just digging into the things he said, I want to talk a little bit about the interpretation of those who consumed it.
Okay.
Because what I saw was a lot of people talking about truth, truth, truth. He told the truth. Did he? He told his perspective of the truth. And so
Exactly.
since you specifically teach about relationships, I want to talk about that. Ladies, when you think about that ex, your perspective of the truth right now is different from your perspective of the truth when you were in it.
Hmm.
So today you might be like, he wasn't even that fine. That's your truth today. But your truth when you were in it is he my little boo thing.
That's my baby. That's it.
Look at him,
Was
right?
fighting for.
So truth is, for lack of better terminology, is subjective. It's based on your exposure. It's
Yeah.
based on your vantage point.
Hmm.
My husband would be so proud. I said vantage point. Former military. It's based on your
That's
vantage
it.
point. And so it's not that it's not your truth, but my truth yesterday is different from my truth today.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And so I want, like I said, here's what I want to hone in on, right? This that thing I promised y'all early on. There are people who are consuming this interview who, yes, they are finding proof for his truth because they want it to be true. But why do they want it to be true? It's because some of us, and I say us, have a deep belief that if you are wealthy, if you are successful,
Hmm.
you got there the wrong way.
Hmm.
And the
Had to be.
reason had to
Hmm.
be something. You had to sell your soul. You had to not be integrous. And
Hmm.
that's because that's a lot easier than saying, I say I want this thing, but I ain't putting in the work.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think the truth to that is you see the responses fall right in line because social media has created such a veneer that if you don't say anything, everyone starts writing their own narratives. So you hear you need to get out in front of it, you need to do whatever. And
Yeah.
so you hear Ludacris responded, and everybody along the line has started to say something. And I think that actually creates more of the trouble
Yeah.
because we're now not getting to the actual problems. We're
Right.
now only dealing. It's like dealing with the headache, but not dealing with the cause. So
Right.
everybody's out taking all type of aspirin and Tylenol and everything else, not realizing that that's Cat's truth.
Yeah.
But it's how does it affect you? And I think what folks, I want to set the record straight. Now you're forcing everyone to pick sides, and I've
Mm-hmm.
started to watch this in the responses. I'm with Cat or I'm with this person. I sat back and thought about is how does this benefit us as a community? Because, like you mentioned, where's the opportunity to heal? Where's the opportunity to have a discussion? And I know when I was putting my list together, one of the first ones on the list was the risk of social discord.
Yeah.
And that's happening because the minute that we put stuff out with no guardrails, the minute and I think you even hear it with Shannon when he said, I didn't know the interview was going to go this way. And he came in talking and I wasn't sure. So I just let him go. Well,
And
if
see,
you
that's the other thing from a media perspective. Control your show, man.
that's what I was kind of thinking. I get it because you're like, yo, this is going viral, but to what detriment? And the Lord says count the cost.
Yeah.
And when the Lord says count the cost, it's because, yeah, you could gain everything, but what are you losing?
Right.
Because now, what does the new comedian, what does the kid that's out there trying to break into the industry have to think? And you're bringing up terms like the Illuminati. You're bringing up things that create all type of division and
Yeah.
negative thoughts.
Yeah.
Where is the person who's now coming in that has no thought supposed to think or believe? Or who do I rock with now that's coming in? And I just saw Tina mention Ricky Smiley, and I know you said you're from where Ricky Smiley is from.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't change how I felt about Ricky Smiley, but it does cause you when you hear it now to pay attention. But
Mhm.
are we paying attention from a position of positivity?
Right.
Or are we listening for gotcha moments? Are we listening for like, okay, you are. So what's your thoughts on, because I know she wrote Ricky Smiley. And I was going to ask
Yeah.
about that because I know you have a connection in terms of where he comes from.
Yeah. And so I'm here in Alabama, good old Alabama. And he's got a morning show that's in the market here.
Mm-hmm.
And he being Ricky Smiley. So Ricky, I got in the car yesterday. I tend to try to just zone in on music because I don't want to hear about your stuff. I'm trying to get my mind right. I got to get in traffic. But he had someone on the show. I'm not going to even pretend like I knew who it was. But what I thought was amazing about Ricky Smiley was he said, you know what? I'm not even, I have some real life stuff going on. He said, I'm navigating the fact that my son has been gone, as part deceased 1 year, this 1 year this month. He said, I got real life stuff going on. And so I don't want y'all to choose sides for me between us. He said, I believe it's enough out here for everyone. He said, I can go to all of the comedy clubs and do my thing. He said, I can't do it. I believe it's enough room for everybody. And what he said is, he said, I want you, if you rocking with me, I want you to go and buy a ticket and show up and support Katt Williams because he's coming here. He said, I want you to sell him out. He said, I want you to support him. And he said, I love him. I wish him to the best. And he said, my only thing is that I will say is that it didn't bother me. I'm in the public eye all the time. Somebody always got something to say about me. He said, but my kids were like, dang, Dad. And I'm like, ooh, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
a large part, from what I understand, a large part of, some of his commentary around Ricky was around his character where he's a female caricature. And y'all, we've heard that for years. We've heard that for years, from Shanae to Wanda. We've heard that for years, but let's talk about that. Y'all, I'm a little older, but bosom buddies,
Yeah.
Tom Hanks and
Television show.
and the
Yeah.
little dude, I can't remember his name. They had a whole show where they played men who dressed as women so they can live in this apartment complex.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was
And
before
that
Forrest Gump.
and that's but I think also we have to take into account that what is required from those who are of not color is
Mhm.
different than what they require of men of color. And I think what happens is, and we've heard they're going to make you put on a dress, and we've heard that conversation as well. But I think with comedians is different for this reason. If this is part of your act, like Ricky Smiley, I've seen him in concert where this is part of his act as the woman from the church. So I get it. So it wasn't, and I don't necessarily know if it was somebody making him put on a dress because it was part of his act. And I've seen, like, Shanae is iconic because at the time it just hit on some things. And again, I don't know if Martin was forced to put on. And these are the things that, because we don't know, we
Yeah.
can only go on what truths are given out as we have this conversation. And I think there's something to it, is that we have to sometimes really take a step back and listen to the individuals who are in those environments so we can try to draw what we can. So when I hear a Dave Chappelle say, they asked me to put a dress on, I was adamant about it. I said no, I said no, I said no. And then 5 minutes later, they came back and had a whole second script and everything ready to go. So he said in his mind, so were you just testing me to see if I would put the dress on?
Yeah.
There's something to that. But again, unless we're in those environments and we don't know what sacrifices people have made, and I think that's why it's very critical that we take a step back and look at the whole picture,
Yeah.
because we're not getting all of the picture. We're getting interpretations from different
You're
positions.
getting truths from different vantage points.
And in Katt Williams, we know that he's been anti the establishment, but we don't know if that's because of his own doing that now has placed him in that position, or has Hollywood, quote unquote, Hollywood, blackballed him and said, well, that's the only position we're allowing you. We don't know. Business do that. They're not going to say it. No one's going to get on TV and go, yeah, we're making sure Katt Williams doesn't work. And no.
Yeah. And you know what? I am very big on personal accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And when all this popped off, and again, y'all, I promise you, I want you to understand, I'm not about to give 3 hours of my life to watch this whole thing. I'm not going to do it. I don't have time. But what I will say is this: it is possible that he has been blackballed.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible. There are some, I'm going to say, however, because everybody be like, well, but, eliminates what the first point you made. However, think about some of the unreliableness that he has demonstrated when he was a headliner, right? You are a headliner and you go to the gas station and you get into a fight with some teenagers and now you're in jail and the box office is sold out,
Mm-hmm.
right? Some of the behavior, and trust me, my whole house got all of the letters you can think of, and I'm not even talking about degrees. I'm talking about ADD, ADHD, OCD, anxiety, like PTSD, like
The,
all of those
the
things. And what I'm
actors.
not doing is blaming him for mental health challenges. I am saying though, you have to understand when you have unchecked mental health issues, there are consequences.
Yeah,
Yes, we love and understand that you have these challenges, but it is also your responsibility to take care of you, whatever that is.
yeah,
And so
exactly.
that doesn't negate the fact that you have consequences to your actions. That's life. And
Hmm.
so if I'm on a 9 to 5 job and I don't show up, I get fired.
Yeah,
It-
you can't blame the company for
I'm saying,
that.
and, and- and,
But
and
creating
again,
situations, then you deal with the toxic situations. You don't fire back by saying, I'll just get there when I get there because I don't like it. You deal with the source. And it goes back to what I just mentioned. We don't deal with the headache. The headache is the outcome. We deal with the source. We deal with what's causing the headache because if we relieve that, the headache goes away. And we
right,
seem to be stuck with the secondary thing that we're working with, not the initial. And I think it's important because you mentioned something earlier when it talks about you say what you say, you take the shots, you take the shots. But the collateral damage, and this is where when we talk about compromising public safety, right?
mhm,
The reason why when you give out your truth, you have to be mindful of your position because you now have put family members into the mix and brought people to the radar. And I know this is just part of the game of anybody being famous. But
right.
when you start causing people to draw lines, when you start having people to feel angst against other folks, you got to remember their families. You got to remember the children. You got to remember there's collateral damage that comes from some of this, where when we hear folks say some of it is true and some of it is lies, well, how are we supposed to know? And how is someone who's sitting there listening, who's a fan of his, now going to take what he said, which then may decide to take out that negative on someone else? And that's where we got to be very careful when we have interviews like this, when we decide to unleash this. They talk about bringing receipts, and that's a very common term, but everybody's known for years. You're not supposed to open up your mouth or say anything unless you have the receipts, but social media has allowed us to just put whatever, just
We're a
say what
soundbite society.
exactly. But we got to change that because there's real damage to public safety with misinformation or targeted strikes, as we want to call them, because that was targeted. That wasn't random because you could see him thinking, okay, what's next? Who am I going after next? Even so much so that a couple of times Shannon said, well, why'd you say that?
Yeah.
And then he went on
Listen,
to it.
listen. I live in Alabama. Any Alabamians in the comment section? Let me tell you something.
Two in the chat. If you're from Alabama, go ahead and throw a two in the chat. Or if you got
When
family in
you
Alabama.
come to Alabama, if you come here, if you're born here, you know one thing to be true. It's two kind of people, and it ain't the two kind of people you're thinking about. Either you're an Alabama fan or you're an Auburn fan,
Mm,
and that
mm,
seems like that's so silly, right? Listen to me. We have had people unalive other people
mm,
over. I'm an Alabama fan. I'm an Auburn fan. Neither one
mm.
of y'all went to either one of those colleges.
Ready to thump to the highest level.
Right? You didn't graduate. You didn't go to a class. You didn't go to a master class. You never been to the campus. You listen. And
Just a part.
so, and so, so when you come and you come with these absolutes, like if I'm an Alabama fan, then I don't talk to Auburn fans. Like that's a you issue.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And that's my thing. Again, like there's so many layers to this. And I really just, I'm thinking about those who consume the content and their interpretation of it. I'm
yeah,
thinking about the things that they internalize. Like, if I want to be integrous, I'm not going to be successful.
yeah, yeah,
I, and also that the idea that there can only be one person standing. Because to me, like if this was a video game, right? Katt was like undefeated, right?
for the
It
night.
was like fatality. Like, see, I'm
Right? Yeah.
old, like Street
He's
Fighter.
top dog for the night, but then the retaliation because now everybody goes back to the bunker and figures out: do I blow it off? Do I go on the attack? And I think, and let me before I go on, First of all, guys, let me just reset the room real quick. All of you that popped in, because we had a lot of numbers jump up. First of all, thank you for being here, everyone in the chat. I am Keith K.L. Belvin, crisis specialist. You know I do this every Friday, but I have a special guest with me today, Dr. Turkessa Colvin, and we're talking about the Katt Williams truth, his truth, and we're talking about the implications of that truth and also the toxicity of that truth and the particular dangers that can come from just unleashing that. And I want to say to all of you here in the chat, thank you. But remember to tap the screen, because by tapping the screen, we still want to get to our target hearts of 20K, because that sends it out over the TikTok streets to let folks know that we're over here. So hang back, listen to the conversation, enjoy. But while you're doing that, tap the screen, give Tina a break, because I know Tina's tapping and I don't want her to have wrist injuries going into the weekend. But again, I wanted, and that's another way to let Doc and I know that you're enjoying the conversation too. Also share this out because again, it's going to be talked about all over social media, but we want folks to know that we're over here having an intelligent conversation about this and hoping that it hits the soil ground that it's supposed to. So definitely pop in. He just wants to be in control of his destiny. I understand that, Quinton. That's a suggestion. We don't know that. That's the key. Because what he says and what he does, we don't know the motivation. Yes, he has 19 specials that he owns. Yes, he's his own man. And I respect that. And that's one of the things that I brought up last night. The entrepreneurial part of watching Katt is fantastic. Yes, you should own your stuff because it gives you an opportunity to create a market for yourself. Yes, he's on different specials that he's gotten paid for. But here's the bigger question. What has he not gotten handed to him that he could have because his talents warrant that? Because if you're making $100,000, that's decent. That's very good. But if you're worth 10 million because of your talents, well, now we got to have a conversation, because why are you not getting what should be coming to you? Because we all know, well, most of us who are children of God, you can block your blessings too. And as a counselor, one of the things that I have to help someone understand is we will make pain seem like it's okay. We will make the pain that we are in believable to ourselves, and then we'll start to incorporate other people to now believe the same things. This is why when the Lord says bad communication corrupts good character, well, if we put out bad communication, what comes back is going to affect us. Katt is a very talented man. I've seen him at the Paramount in New York. I've seen a lot of folks when I was in New York. He is outstanding on stage. So then the first thing you have to say to yourself, he was outstanding in Friday After Next, which I love, which I just sat and watched with my daughter. So then I go, why isn't he in more? Yeah. And I can't give you that. I don't know if he's blocked. I don't know if it's something that he's done. But like Doctor just said, when I see you getting into it with a high school student, when I see that you've been arrested for different things. Now, we know the game is tilted for brothers and sisters of a certain hue. We got that. But the question becomes, there are some of us that embrace that trouble, while there are some of us that try to run away from it as far as we can. And if it finds us, it finds us, but we try to avoid it. So that's my challenge to all of you in the chat is, as you're listening to us, I don't want you to judge Katt. I want us to have a conversation on what is the effect of the outcome of what he is doing for himself and what he's doing for others, because we're in those situations a lot of times on very lesser levels. Some of you may be in that same situation. Let me ask you guys in the chat this real quick. How many of you at work have somebody that you know, if they would just calm down and maybe even shut up, would be very good at what they do? But unfortunately, they get in their own way. Put me in the chat. I don't want you to out nobody. Don't use nobody's name. Y'all know us. If you're new over here, we don't use names. Put me in the chat. If you know somebody at work or in your circle, hell, in your family, that you know they could be so much better if they just, oh my God, if they did it differently.
Me, that's my me in the chat. Me, I know some. Yeah,
me. B Love said me, and there you go. And that's important because that's how we can connect to what Katt is saying. But also, do not discount the fact that alcohol is on the table. Hey, shout out from New Orleans. Don't discount that alcohol is on the table. Don't discount that all of a sudden now in the world, we're drinking on television. Now, I don't know if it's fake. It could be iced tea. But I know now folks want to push the envelope so far that we literally have a podcast called Drink Champs, where it looks like they're drinking. And if you watch long enough, you see Nori start to slur as the show goes on. Now, if that's acting, fantastic. So,
Listen, at the top of the show, you talked about like what do we do for the weekend and for the new year and all of that. My husband and I went to a winery because I
nice,
enjoy wine.
nice.
We had a wine tour, which do a wine tour, y'all. Um, look, we were 5 glasses into tasting this wine. To the fourth one, he turned his upside down. He said, "Nope, nope." I was like, "Hit me up."
Yeah,
On the way to, on the way leaving the winery, I professed my love 3 times to my husband.
let's
Like,
go.
you know what I mean? Like, it's some different things happen when
Yes.
you introduce that liquid courage. And he's like, he looked at me, he said, "I love you. You know you intoxicated, right?" I was like, "Yeah, I ain't driving, it's fine." No, but it does, it does lower inhibitions.
Yes.
It does. And
Yeah.
one thing, I think it's Quince 1991. Quincy, let me know if I'm saying that right. You talking about, I will never forget Katt Williams in First Sundays week when he said, "I don't think I would have told that." Makes me cry laughing every time like it's the first time. Right?
Exactly.
Seeing him talk about how he will never ever partake with Snoop has me weak.
They don't stop. It's like it's coming around again.
Man is talented.
Exactly.
Man has trauma though.
Exactly.
We
And I
all
and I
have
said
trauma.
right, the trauma, and it's and here's the thing: we never hear him talk about how he dealt with it or is dealing with it. We know what we've heard, we know what we've saw, and then I can hear his pain because it's the reference to self that is very important. And I want to say this to anybody watching, and I want you to really pay attention to this in your own life as well as in lives of the loved ones that you have around you. When somebody projects out their pain, they're going to point to something that they don't like, but then they're going to make a reference back to themselves as a way of saying, "Well, I would have did that differently," or whatever it is. That is a clear indication that there's some link there between what they wanted you to look at and then they brought it back to themselves. But remember, most people are not going to say, "I have this problem." This is where professional counselors like myself, professionals like Doc come in, because it's when you sit down with one of us that you go, "How do I get my business to a higher level?" And now here's the challenging questions that come from professionals. Well, first, we got to dig into how you got to this point here. And one of the things I want to mention in my book, right? And I didn't mention it earlier, but listen, this is what I do. Doc sold 21. I'm getting there. I'm like 7. So I'm on my way. I'm like a third of what she's gotten to. But from the first chapter in my book of 12 Steps of Dealing with Toxic Relationships, I talk about to accept where you are right now. Because we can't do anything until you accept where you are. And step number 2 is, how did we get to this point? And the reason why I started with those 2 steps is we have to say, 1, here's the starting point. And then 2, let's look at the past. You guys have heard me say this. I go back into your past to get information, not emotion. Katt is showing you emotion connected to where he is. Yes, there's a design to it. But how deep is that pain?
Right.
And we won't know that until we actually get inside the man's head. That's the danger of a 3-hour interview with someone that's dealing with a lot. I think for Mimo just said, I believe Katt is dealing with a lot. I agree with you 100%. 100%.
Yeah. One of the first things, and Keith, you might not remember this, but one of the most powerful questions I can ask a client or someone I'm mentoring is, "Who told you that?"
You said that in the group. I remember when we talked about how much money could actually be made from the book, and I was like, until I got your notes, and I was like, she ain't lying. Yeah.
Right? The math is the math, but who told you the thing that you believe? Who told you that? Let me tell you something. One of my favorite things is called metacognition. Look it up. Metacognition, I'm going to give you a simple definition. Metacognition is thinking about what you're thinking about. The way that our minds work, once we initially think a thought, we will think that same thought every single day after that until another thought comes in to replace that. And we have upwards of what, 70,000 thoughts? It might be 700,000 thoughts a day. They're on autopilot, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And so those things, and I'm just so you know, Keith, later on today, I'm probably going to do a live and it's going to talk about mindset versus mentality, because those are two separate things. But
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to our beliefs, we can't believe a new thing until we have the right ground for that seed to be planted.
Exactly.
What
Exactly.
people don't realize with comedians, with um, personalities, on air, influencers, all the things, they tend to show us just a glimpse of who they are as human beings. And a lot of times it is trauma. And it
It is.
allows us to trauma bond with them,
It is. It
right?
is.
When
It
I
is.
think about my long-term relationships, and you and I talked about this, but we're not naming names. But like when I think about my long-term friendships and relationships, some of them fell off after I came out of the trauma that bonded us in the first place.
Exactly. You now see the sunshine. You go, why was I even embracing the darkness? Which I talk about often in counseling. Folks don't know that they have trauma bonds because they think it's unity. They think
Yeah.
it's friendship. They think it's something
Synergy.
special because they've
Yeah.
never been out of that dark situation. I'm reading Jada Pinkett Smith's book now. I read Will's book now, and instantly within the first 5 or 10 minutes of the audiobook, I understood why her and Will have sort of connection. I'm reading the rest. And the reason why is they both were raised by their grandmothers because Will saw his father abuse his mother.
Mhm.
Jada had two parents who were drug addicted, so the grandparents had to step in. So they both had a special connection to their grandparents. And when you start to think of that problem as a child, then it connects you when you find somebody else who has similar situations. We think it's something beautiful because we go, they understand me. But if they're not healed and you're not healed, well, there's only a matter of time. And here's the reason why, and it's simple, not to get off the subject. She starts off with the book saying, I have the successful husband, beautiful children, I have a nice career, but here I am on Mulholland Drive thinking, how can I off myself so it doesn't look like I committed unaliving? So my kids won't worry about it. So here you are wanting to get rid of yourself, but still worried about how the kids are going to receive it. That is not a situation or a position from somebody who is successful in all areas. So we have
And
to be careful when we see folks in that situation.
there's so many layers to that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they did not have the vantage point of a healthy traditional relationship.
Exactly.
Traditional relationship. Neither one of them. Right.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so that's one part. The other part is we tend to build external relationships and we will go hard to build the hey Lauren, to build those external relationships, and we will neglect the relationship that is us every single time, especially if there's stuff that we don't want to deal with.
Unresolved stuff. And the impacting of the mental health is so critical. And you brought it up, which I was going to bring up. Comedy is a torturous situation at best. When we look at the Greek sign for the arts, it's one sad face, one happy face. Same face, different expressions. We look at the number of comedians who have unalived themselves. Some we did not know that they were even going through something. Some we could kind of see because they were leaving breadcrumbs because of their behaviors.
Yeah.
One I'll bring up is Freddie Prinze, and I'm showing my age now. If y'all don't
I
know
was
who
gonna say Robin Williams, but go on.
I'm getting to Robin Williams too, but Freddie Prinze was in Chico and the Man. He was
Yeah.
an up and coming talent. He was a very handsome Latino man. Everybody said his career was about to skyrocket. Chico and the Man was doing well, and all of a sudden he checks out. So they couldn't figure out why. And the one thing that I have come to learn, especially living in New York for the years, I've only been here 7 years in Delaware. When you go to the comedy clubs, and I can tell you this for a fact, I remember sitting at the comedy club with my ex-wife and looking at all the young talents, whatever. And I always like to raise my glass. I don't do all the yelling and screaming. I raise my glass. And I remember Damian Wayans was sitting off to the side. He liked to come and watch. And I see everybody fawning and everything. I looked over to him. I raised my glass and gave him a thumbs up. My ex-wife, she was always drugged out and wanting to see somebody. And I was like, calm down. People don't want to go through all that when they're here. He's here as a spectator. Relax. Well, sure enough, before the end of the night, he came over and he said, big man, I want to say something to you. I said, what's up? He said, I respect you. He said, one, I've been watching you. He said, you raise your glass. He said, you're very respectful. And he's like, sometimes, and he said, when I was walking towards somewhere, he said, I heard you when you told your wife, people don't want to be bothered because they're here as a spectator. I had no idea that he was, because I'm watching the show. So he bought us drinks. He took some pictures with my ex-wife. But one of the things he said, sometimes it's hard just to come out and want to relax. He says, sometimes I come out just to see what's hot and see where I'm at and whatever. And I respect that. And I've always felt that way because living in New York, you don't know who you're going to come across. And I've come across many of entertainers as well as working with basketball players. I've come across a lot of basketball players. You don't know how tortured someone is by their success. Yeah. And I want to say that because just because I do this professionally for the last 3 or 4 years, that doesn't mean those 28, 26, whatever amount of years I spent in the New York City school system dealing with parents, dealing with children and traveling back and forth and then seeing other folks. I've had entertainers say, I wish I had what you and your wife have. I go, what you mean? You worth millions, bro. I would gladly do that with you. And he was like, I know that you and your wife have peace and privacy and calm. He said, I can't get that. He said, I got to travel away from where I live to get he said, I can't even go to the store. He said, I travel to the store in Manhattan, and I'm not going to say who it is because it don't need to be said because I respect his privacy. But to what you were saying is that the mental side of it, a lot of these folks do not get the mental help that they need until it's too late. And then for some, they never do. And Robin Williams, there's no way you could have told me Robin Williams was having the crisis. And I remember an interview I heard with his daughter.
Adams.
She said, I had no idea my father was struggling like this. She said, we knew he would get in an emotional state over his career. She said, we had no idea that he had gotten to this point. And to see such a great man, Robin Williams has won every award that a comedian could win, that an actor could win, and still felt I'm not needed on this planet with wife and children, and checked out. It is so important that we have these conversations.
But here's the thing, Keith, and again, I've been really thinking about this since yesterday. For some reason, we equate success to perfection.
Yes.
And that's not accurate. There's so many, oh man, listen, as Prophet Smokey said, the tears of a clown when no one is around.
One is around, that's it.
Right?
That's it.
For most of us, especially those of us, like realistically speaking, those of us who partake in the social media features and things like that, most people think you an extrovert. I am not. I'm actually an ambivert. Right? Like I can do what I need to do, but probably after this, I'm gonna need to take a nap. Right? But
I've heard many times we get off the phone, about to go take a nap.
Take a nap. So Cheryl made a point here, and it's so valid. There's so many people we can name. For those of you who know Owen Wilson, some years ago, he was like, I don't want to do this. And he's a funny guy. He's a physical comedy kind of guy. He has those kind of movies, and he was, dating whomever and all of the things. But again, that is all external, tangible things. But what's going on inside is unchecked.
I want to mention something. Saxon said, Tamara husband, and I don't mean to cut you off, Doc, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. He said for 2 years, he suffered in silence. And I talk about this to men because my normal client is women between the ages of 40 and 70, but the door is always open to men. My secondary clients are men, and I noticed that men will listen to their women, and that's how they come and find me, and that's fine. I spoke about his interview where he told what's the young lady I forget her show that he was on. And somebody in the chat will tell me the show that he was on. But he mentioned that for 2 years he was struggling. But it was listening to Tamara say, I didn't know. He would say he was tired and he was going through this, and she's doing what a productive and entertainment wife is doing. She's there for her husband and doing the things necessary. That's one of the things that you got to listen to, guys. Their significant others, their children often did not know. So if they're able to hide it from them, there's no way that we on the outside are going to be able to understand or know what's happening. What we have to do is when it shows itself, when we have these unfortunate situations, we have to turn around and find a way to help heal our own. Because if someone who's worth millions is going through something, stop and ask yourself, then what's going on in my family? Because I know we got these bills or we got some things we're struggling with. And we got to start saying to ourselves, are we getting help? Because that's one thing I don't want anybody to leave this conversation without thinking about is I am here to help. Dr. Colvin is here to help. We help in different ways, but at the same time, listen, you're meeting her through me, and it doesn't matter how you get to her. This is why we have to have these conversations, and we have to allow these conversations to hit fertile ground. Yeah. If something that I said, and you guys know I say this every week, if something that I says trigger you, I always tell you, just go ahead and go because I don't want to trigger anybody and I'm not there to help you. Today, if something that we're talking about triggers you, reach out to one of us. Tell me why you were triggered. All right. Reach out and say, what was the part of the conversation that you was triggered? Because I might go, you know what? Let me connect you to Doc and she'll give you an explanation. Or Doc may say, let me connect you back to Keith because he can help you with that situation because I got somebody with me today. The reason why I normally just say log off and come back and watch the replay because I know what it is to deal with somebody who's triggered and they don't know what to do. That hole opens up and they dive in. Go ahead, Doc.
Let me tell you, we use that word triggered, and it's triggered is triggering. What it is cognitive dissonance. And basically what that means is you just heard something that does not line up with what you have decided is your internal belief system.
She's flexing the PhD right now, y'all. I just want y'all to understand that. I was trying to keep it simple, but she was like, hold on a second.
No, I want you to understand give you the actual. We tend to be like, triggered, run away. But why? Right? The goal, you don't know my intention. My intention is to always give you information. Now, what you do with that information is up to you.
Right? It's on you.
And so the cognitive dissonance is that does not feel good, run away. That is inaccurate. Mm-hmm. That's blasphemous. I'm just putting it out there. But it's an indicator that I need to grow there. I need to consider something. I'm not saying change your mind, but maybe understand there's a different perspective out there. One of the things that I think we have totally gotten away from is having conversations where we do agree to disagree.
Exactly.
We have conversations to debate and change minds. I'm not here to change your mind. I'm not here to tell you if Katt Williams is right or wrong. I'm here to help you understand some lessons that we can learn from just how he showed up for 3 hours.
Exactly. And see, when that happens, Quincy, that's a signal to you to get out of those circles. It is not for, if you're saying something that you know to be true or honestly believe to be true, and the person is just not even trying to listen to you, well, then you have to ask yourself the question, why am I still here? There's a point when we have to let even the people that we love go and just be there when they figure it out, because we don't want the people that we care about to fall and hurt. We don't, and sometimes we don't want strangers to fall and hurt. But if you're offering something and they don't want it and you know it's something that can help them, hold on to it or give it to somebody else. Let them go. Yeah. Something that my old dentist said when he had 3 cancellations, I said, that don't bother you that people just canceled last minute? He said, no. I said, well, I ain't checking your pockets, but how do you rock with that? He said, oh, the pain will drive them back. And I said, excuse me? He said, oh, listen, if they don't want to come, they don't have to. When teeth start falling out of their mouths, they will come back. Unfortunately, it will cost them more. And the reason why that hit home is because helping authors figure out what to do with their books, I can't sell the book for you. I could put you in a position to go out and sell the book. But if you literally tell me you've done nothing, gone no. Want it, nothing else I could do. In a counseling session, if you're resisting everything that I'm offering, well, then I'll take a step back and say, then why are we here? Yeah. Because you want to heal you. You came to me for a reason. I want to help you.
Yeah.
But the things you have to do is you have to go over to the driver's side, unbuckle the seatbelt, and then climb over to the passenger side
You
and sit
froze
there.
for a second, but you're back. You
Okay.
froze for a second, but you're back.
Am I back now?
Yeah.
Got you. And trust that I can drive. But if you still want to drive the car when you've already wrecked it 7, 8, 9, 10 times, I can't help you because at this point, you're not allowing me to show you the proper way to do it. And I can tell you because working with Doc, she ain't playing no game. Let me put y'all on game for a second because she's being very nice, right? And I understand that. Y'all meeting her for the first time, some of y'all. Let me just say this to y'all if y'all decide to work with Dr. Colvin. She gonna give you quality, intense information. What she ain't gonna give you is a whole lot of rope. It ain't enough rope to wrap around nothing, maybe your finger. Because if she sees that you're not using a little bit of rope that she giving you, you'll look up and all you'll have is the rope. She's not gonna be there, but she's gonna be polite. She's actually gonna say, I can't do nothing for you. And I can tell you because we were in a group and she literally said, I see ain't nobody doing the homework here. I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. It's not that I need your money and I'm going to send you back your money because I'm done because the time I'm spending with you preparing stuff and you're not doing it, I could do something else. Now, I did my homework. I was doing what I was supposed to do. So there was some benefits to that because she said, Keith, I see you doing it. I was rewarded. That's something I want y'all to understand. If you do the work, even if it hurts, the reward on the other side is that not only will you gain a clarity of what you just fought through, you get an invisible force field that helps you when that starts to come back. Because now you're not in the same position of understanding that you were before. Now you can fight. Now, that doesn't mean that the same thing might not overwhelm you. Listen, evil is evil and things are going to happen. But I'd rather fight from a position of knowing than not knowing.
So, Keith, you make it seem like I come in and I be teaching with boxing gloves on. But no, you 100% accurate. You have to know when to hold them, know when to fold them.
That's it.
And just even with that, again, just wanting to make sure we bring it back around to just the conversation we're having. I want to touch on the toxicity.
Yes.
We have a tendency to think that we can, or we will overly focus on fixing the people outside of us.
Yeah.
I had a revelation day one of the year, and it was so simple. And I was like, dang, I did not have to fix being 5 years old. I just had to grow into being 6 years old.
That's it. That's it.
I didn't have to fix being 5 years old. I just had to grow into being 6 years old. So whatever it is that you deem toxic, whether it is how you've navigated relationships before, how you've navigated jobs, how you navigated business, how you navigate your decision making, what do you want to look like?
Yeah.
What do you want your norm to be?
What is the best you look like?
That part.
Yeah.
And grow into that. Words are so important. Words are so powerful and important. Last year, for the last 2 years, I have really worked on not saying shift. We hear that a lot. You need to shift. You got to shift. But again, a download I had, and this was in 2022, was that if something shifts, it can shift back. I don't want it to shift back. So I started using the term growth, because you don't reverse growth, right?
Nope.
Like, I can try to put on this 2T shirt. It ain't going to go well.
It's going to be real harder to go backwards. So I'm going to rock out.
I'm going to just keep it moving. I'm going to go up my size, whatever. But again, the conversations around Katt Williams, entertaining, right? He's entertaining. Whatever he does, he's entertaining. He's animated, all the things. But there's lessons for us to learn here. My dad, may he rest in peace, and my husband, who is with me, they say the same thing. Freedom of speech, you do have that, but that does not mean the consequences don't come.
True. And it doesn't mean that the person that hears your free speech is going to recognize that it's just words, because you don't know how those words are going to sit with them. And you speak a great point, because the danger with Katt, and this is speaking strictly on a toxic situation, is we open the door to behaviors that we think are okay. You might have somebody now who walked into work that's on their Katt Williams vibe, and I'm airing out everybody. I'm telling everything. You know what? And the chick upstairs is messing with the dude on the 5th floor and all this. And now everybody, that's right. If Katt Williams, and all that sounds cool. And you might get the chick behind you going, go girl, do what you tell them. Until they say HR want to talk to you.
Till you get that email that says you're requested in HR, and it's like,
now it's like, girl, what should I do? And that same person that says, dude, girl, I ain't nobody tell you to do all that.
No, why you did that?
The danger is, like you mentioned, the consequences, but also some of the consequences can push you so further down into the hole that you are already in,
right,
that you can't get back just to zero. Now, when you mention growth, learning growth, unless there's a damage to the cranium, does not disappear. But if you don't use it, it can be very difficult to go find it in here. Because like anything else, knowledge has to be used or it becomes very difficult to recall. We don't forget anything. That's something that I've been studying myself. And of course, I got a couple exams coming up that I've been studying, is that our living computer, the brain, remembers everything that we come across. The question becomes being able to recall it. Alley Hoop, what's the overreach, sir? I would love to know that. Share with me. What's the overreach? Come on, help me out. Add to the conversation. Because I'm always willing to learn. And that's just something that we have to think about, especially in counseling sessions, is that I can't make you beholden to me. I have to teach you how to be strong on your own 2 feet. And I joke about this in counseling sessions. My job is to get you to the point where you fire me. And they go, what do you mean? No, not for negative reasons. But you get to the point that you go, I don't need you, Keith. I got this. Now we can just have regular conversations where we check in, where we just.
Keith, you know this. If I'm working with a business owner 2, 3, 4 years down the line on the same thing, I failed. That's my standard.
Exactly.
I make sure my clients understand I'm not your manager.
Exactly.
You don't run your decisions by me. I am a sounding board. I'm a resource because I got a lot of information. I have a lot of access to a lot of things. But if you're waiting to make decisions in your business till you talk to me because I got to tell you yes or no.
Hold on one second, Doc. Alley Hoop, excuse me. You said I don't, not speaking individually. That's what you would not have done. I said somebody, I said the danger, what Katt said is there's somebody, meaning a particular person, whoever that may be, who may take what he said to the negative. If you are grounded and it is not something that would cause you to be a particular way, that's cool. But we have to understand the danger of what we put out to the masses, because it only takes one person to hear something to the negative and decide, I think I'm going to take 25 people with me today. One person. We've seen it in Oklahoma City. One person. So we have to be careful. Now, can we always avoid that one person? No. But what we have to do is be considerate of where we decide to just unleash whatever we're going to unleash. Last night, when I saw the interview with Shannon Sharp, the guardrails were off and they said, Katt, basically do what you got to do. And that's the situation. The problem with that is he put out so much that it was sensory overload for everybody watching. Plus, like I said, I wasn't watching the whole 3 hours. And the reason why we know it to be such is you see all the responses. 7 million people in less than a couple of hours viewed that show. Certified viral. What's the damage though? What's the negative outcome? Because here's what I do, and Doc does it as well. We have to deal with people on a social level, on a ground level. But the effects of the tidal waves from people way above us can drown folks before they get to someone on the social level.
That's valid.
And we have to push back on that, because if we don't, we now have too many folks repeating negative information or emulating poor behavior. And I can
That's
tell you from the years in the classroom,
valid.
one good child in a room with kids who are having some problems, come back in a week, you won't know which was the good child.
Mm.
Because we've seen these studies. Get on the elevator and everybody turn and the wrong way. You know what happens to the person who goes, but I'm the right way. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and turn too. And the reason why is because our social connection to each other is such that when things hit home, which Doc is talking about, we then turn around and think, maybe I need that. Maybe I need to act that way. So I just wanted to mention that. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Do you agree people interpret things based on their frame of reference? Of course.
Yep.
Of course, we all do. Our
Absolutely.
experiences. Okay, I'll give you an example. Doc says she's in Alabama. I'm from New York City. So Doc may see a rat and go, look at that rat.
Appalled.
Me, I think, does he have a Metro card? Because I got to get on this train to go to work. And because what I'm used to with rats in New York, all right, whatever. Each experience is different.
Yeah.
And what you got to understand is we are the product of our experiences and our interactions.
All right now, Alley, War Eagle. See there, I said that earlier. When you come to Alabama, see, you know, when you come to Alabama, it's two types of people. It ain't about color. It ain't about none. It's about Alabama or Auburn. Okay. But to go back to what you said, you know, when I came into the online space. So for those of you who are just coming in and don't know me, I get to be the guest. I'm Dr. Colvin. And when I came into the online business space, the laptop lifestyle and quitting my 9 to 5 was a big thing. And a lot of the influencers were talking about how they walked away from their 9 to 5s. And they were just telling their stories, but the interpretation from some of the people is I have to quit my job in order to really show that or prove that this is my dream. And so what I saw happen was people would quit their jobs and then be like, oh my God, this business has to work. And they put themselves in a stressful situation. Now the influencer just said what they said. This was my story. This is what I did. It made me, I put my feet to the flame and it worked for me. And so other people interpreted, I'm gonna go ahead and quit my good job.
Trying to figure out what's going on.
And then the next thing you know, I'm not making light of the situation, but the next thing you know, people are like, can you donate to me? Because I'm about to be evicted. And it's like, whoa. How did you do that? How did that happen? And it was based on their interpretation of somebody else's story.
Exactly. And I just saw that JoJo talked about, we did talk about the alcohol because I have a problem with the fact that we want reality TV to be reality when anybody that's been connected to anything remotely connected to media knows that nothing is reality. It's all staged because it has to be. So if part of the show was we're actually going to drink, and I believe that they are, because what I watch on these shows is, one, I watch how much you sip. And then I watch if your behavior changes as the show goes on. And I've noticed on some reality is staged, exactly. I noticed on some of these shows, you can see the draining of the energy because we know that alcohol is a decelerant. So you can actually see that some of these folks, just like you can tell when they're smoking, if they're really smoking, because you can see the giggling, you can see everything that happens. And here's the problem I have. And again, I go back to my years in the classroom, and guys, please listen to me. When I tell you the effect that social media has on children, I ain't got to tell you as parents. But what I can tell you that I know a lot of you may not have seen, and I'm not disrespecting anybody, but I've seen what this does to hundreds and thousands of children. I remember sitting in a classroom once and a kid said, Mr. B, I saw your Facebook page. You Facebook famous. And I said, and what is that? He said, famous. I said, okay, explain it. And the kid's like, yeah, you Facebook famous. I said, please explain it. I'm old. Tell me. He said, one of your posts had like 500 views. And I said, okay. What does that do for anything? He said, that means you famous. And I said, okay, let's go with that. And I said, put your books down, guys. What can I do with the 500 views? You can walk around and let people know you that dude. And that does what for me? And everything
does that pay?
There you go. And every answer they gave was to the perception of
Yeah.
success.
Yeah.
Nothing that was said was even close to, well, you can use this to spring to. So that was my job, to fill them in and go, hey, if you do that and you connect it to something positive, which I do in my classes. But the thing that we have to be careful of is when kids are given information without guidance.
Yeah.
Now, they had me to talk to, but let's say they go home to a parent who has no idea how to bridge that, and you get the traditional, hey, shut up, or I ain't got time for that. Go ahead with that. You shouldn't be on Facebook, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Now, what do? Information is still tingling. They search out others to have that conversation. That is what opens up the door to negativity, because the wolves look for that. And we have to be careful. And when we see things, when we see a famous person, yeah, it may look like he was taking shots. And I've heard people say, yo, he was being real with it. That's my dude. He was keeping it 100. Okay. What happens to the person who doesn't know how to focus with all of that? What happens to the person who doesn't know how to take that and you can't say that's just on them. No, you put that out there. The Lord said, be mindful what comes out your mouth. Be mindful of what you do. Because if you're causing other people to fall off the wagon, you need to address that if you know it. Now, I'm not here to preach to you.
Yeah.
I'm here to let you know that there's a connection to what we do, what we say to other people. And we got to be mindful of that. I am a Katt Williams fan. I think I've seen all his specials. And I told you, I went to see him live in New York. I just think last night, I can rock with some of it, but I think some of it was just, okay, like people say, he was getting it out. But at what cost now? And I wrote this down. Let's see. Undermining collective goals, right?
Oh.
Yeah. Undermining collective goals. What does the next person create at the comedy club? What do? If they've done business with Ricky and Steve and Katt and Said the Entertainer, what do?
Yeah.
Now you can't book them all, possibly. Now you got people who's got to figure out maybe their money now, because they may not know what to do. And what if they make the mistake and say, I'm not booking Katt because I'm a Said, Steve, Ricky, Smiley fan? Well, now you've created greater division. So you've affected the collective goals, which is that all of us make our paper. That's why Ricky Smiley, and what you said, Doc, Ricky Smiley saying, hey, go see him. He understood that.
Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit about the difference between truth and authenticity. Authenticity is it's a powerful thing, but it's kind of become a buzzword already in 2024. Authenticity is about being true to who you are. And a large part of the problem us as human beings have is that we don't figure out who we are. For years, I knew who people said I was, who people thought I should be. But something happens when you get into your 30s and then your 40s, and you'd be like, bump that. Okay. I didn't want to be Big Mama. I didn't want to be, no. Because what y'all not finna do is work the smurf out of me in here. I'm washing everybody's clothes. Y'all know, y'all got hands. And so I had to figure out who I was. But that was my perspective of a good wife and a good mother and a good, grandmother. Remember, I told y'all I got a grandkid. That was my perspective. That was my vantage point. That was my perspective of her truth. Now, she may have, and I never had this conversation, she may, if I had talked to my grandmother and asked her, did she like to do those things? She may have loved to do those things. Whereas my perspective was that she had to do those things.
There you go. The times are different.
And so my perspective of the truth may be different than hers. And so truth actually is subjective. It's subjective. It's dependent upon the subject and where the subject is standing in relation to whatever it is they saw. But authenticity is with you. It's who you are at your core. And I had the opportunity to talk to DeAndrea Coleman. She has a movement called the Black Woman Opt-Out Movement. And I had the opportunity to tell her I couldn't advocate for myself because I didn't know me. I didn't have the ability. And so, again, for those of you who are just coming in, I'm telling you to your eyes, I'm not about to sit through 3 hours of that interview. I don't, I can't. I'm doing good. I got all the ads.
Connect yourself, Doc. From how did you connect from truth to authenticity? How were you able to make that bridge? So if somebody's watching right now and they're saying to themselves, but if my truth is my truth, how do I become authentic with that? What would you suggest to that person watching that needs that?
One thing is to check your intention.
Mm,
Intention is going to be closely attached to your authenticity.
mhm,
Those two things are going to be closely intertwined, not even closely, they're going to be intertwined with your modus operandi. It's going to be closely how you move, as the kids say in these streets, how you are, how you be, just not the facade, not the code switching, because we all know how that goes, but
mhm,
who you are, those that inherent being.
mhm.
Truth is subject to the situation.
Yeah,
Several people came in and felt a certain way about the truth shared, but we've given them some things to consider. So that has now shifted. Their vantage point has shifted. And so for me to bridge those two, I had to really get to know me, y'all.
excellent.
I
That's
really 100%. And I mean, like, be real with myself and be like, I can do these things. Prime example, growing up in church, right?
mhm.
Hallelujah. Growing up in church, and growing up in church meant something different for me. It meant I was always at church. What you doing tonight? Church, duh. Like, but growing up in church, there was a blueprint for life. If
Mhm.
you're a woman, you get married, you have kids. Anything pretty much outside of that wasn't necessarily a conversation. And you would hear, well, if it's the Lord's will, you'll go to college. And it's like, what?
Or woman needs to know her place, which comes up a lot in our traditional churches.
It,
That
it
you got,
does
and there's no conversation. It's just the old heads will say this is what it is, even though they don't know how to explain it themselves, and they
at
definitely
all.
like the challenge to could you explain it? Just do it because I
Exactly. Just because I told you. And
because
so when you get into looking at the blueprints that have been laid out for you in life, and start break it down. Spend some time with you. This gonna require you to spend some time with you on purpose.
the negative stuff too. You got to embrace the uncomfortable stuff, even if you don't like it, because that's where the greatest healing comes from.
Absolutely. When I was younger, I used to say I didn't want kids. And that may be deemed as negative, but I said I didn't want kids. But the root of why I didn't want kids was because I was in a toxic, abusive parent child relationship or
There it is.
guardian child relationship. And I was
That,
like, if this is how you're supposed to treat kids, I don't want no parts of it.
that right there.
Right. So it wasn't that I didn't want kids. I didn't want to be in a situation where I was ill equipped and I mistreated kids.
And that was your truth.
That was
And
my truth, though,
truth based on what you had experienced, based on your environment,
at that
but
time.
knowledge as interaction comes to play, as understanding
Mhm.
reaches the table and reaches the darker areas. Now light is shown you a different pathway. And you hear me say, and I write it on everything, healing requires a
Healing
pathway.
requires a pathway.
You have to be able to open up new pathways. And often that comes with the assistance of somebody else. But we got to be comfortable. This is where, like you talk about your husband, I talk about my wife. I tell folks all the time, I wish they could put two names on my degrees back there on the wall. Because if it wasn't for my wife editing the papers, man, listen, that's not my gift. That's hers. But they can only put one name on it. But I make sure I let everybody know that I am only as strong as I am because of the woman that God allowed me to be connected with. And this is the
Listen,
second time. I'm not going back. If the aliens kidnap her now, that's it. That's it.
let me
If
tell you something. Master Colvin, and people are like, why you call him that? Because let me tell you something.
that's
Okay.
it.
Master Colvin, if it were not for him, I'm sitting there. I got journals everywhere trying to get this dissertation together. I'm boohooing. I'm like, I can't do this. And he's like, okay, okay. He would listen to me and he'd be like, okay, now that you got that out your system, what you need me to do?
Let's get to work.
You
What do
need
you
me to
need?
cook you some dinner? Because he like, sometimes you get a little iffy if you're hungry. You hungry? You know what I'm saying?
Like commercial.
He like, you need Snickers? Like, what you need? And that support, that brings us to a powerful place.
Yes.
Again, coming and talking about Katt Williams, we don't know who's supporting him. I've never seen him. The only time, this is me, y'all. The only time I remember seeing him with an entourage is when he was doing the Dipset thing,
Yeah. He would
right?
show up.
We don't know who's around him. I had Master Colvin, like, y'all, I can be a firecracker. I can go from 0 to 100 and be like, I'm going to tell you because I was raised in Detroit and I'm from the South and you're going to get all of this. Now, Master Colvin will be like, okay, look, I'm with you, but I want you to understand we might be going to go to jail. Right? He gonna pull my sleeve. Right? He's gonna be like, now, is it worth it? Okay, they got the bill wrong, but is it worth it for you to flip tables over?
Let me ask you a question, Doc. And this is Tashina. I'm reading the comments, Tashina. I see you. So to the people who are single, who don't have a partner like my wife or like Master Colvin, what do we offer the people who are single who would love that support but struggle with what we just talked about, but they're alone? What do we offer those individuals that are single?
You know what? It's not just about the fact that we're married. Who's in your circle?
Come on now. Build the
Who's
support.
in your circle? I have people, there's people in my phone that I've never met in person, but they are amazing support systems.
Yep.
We support each other.
Yep.
I have a meeting on the books for Monday for somebody that we're gonna do a think tank and figure out what do we even want life to be like.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And when you go into a relationship, whether that's friendship, kinship, churchship, whatever that is, you really do have to take inventory. You have to, I hate to say it because everybody's saying what they bring to the table, but also what is your expectation? I didn't know how to expect things because, and I shared this before, when I was growing up, and I may be a little older than some of y'all, when I was growing up, expecting meant something not so great. And so I had to learn how to expect in situations that I was going into, and also how to set realistic expectations. If I am not somebody that's going to call you because I don't do phones, then I can't expect you to call me.
Yeah. I can't trip on it when you don't, when it's part of your makeup. And as anybody watching this, I want to say this to you also. This is how you can now leverage social media to the positive. Often we hear about the negatives of social media, and they are, but there's negatives to everything. But this is where you literally can allow social media to pipe you in to things that can get you to the table. Now, who you talk to at that table, what you take away from that table is on you. But when you see a group that says over 40 trying to figure it out, you might want to pop your head in. What they doing here? Or you see successful women of color over 50. Let me pop my head in. What they doing around here? Because social media will allow you to do that. And all of a sudden, and it's something that a friend of mine who's in Europe, and him and I talk and have never met, we actually joke about getting together, is that he saw something that I was doing and reached out and said, can I help you with something? Now, this is what's important, so please hear me on this. When you do your background research on people who offer you things, which you should, don't always think a free offer is an opportunity for somebody to do you dirty. There are real people out here who really want to help, and you can be cautious in saying, well, let's talk. This right here is safety. When you talk to somebody from the privacy of your house and they're wherever they are in the country, you can have a conversation and be like, okay, so what are you offering? Now, here's what you have to listen for. And this is something that the pandemic taught us, and actually it mushroomed, is that here now is somebody from Europe who starts to speak, and they start to actually offer answers to problems I couldn't fix. You actually start to see, hear, and feel the healing. That is how you, when you start, and I've had people say, but Keith, how am I supposed to trust? Listen, pay attention, and trust what you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll all start to come together and line up, because as the person is talking, they're going to offer you things that's going to help you heal. And as you're healing, you should be creating questions. And those questions should be answered. The one thing that is very hard to hide is negative intentions when you are having honest conversations. It is very difficult for somebody to hide. Now, I'm not saying that they don't. Trust me, I'm telling you, some do. But overall, when you figure it out and you start to heal, the healing will be the sign.
Yeah.
I wasn't healing before this person started talking to me. And here's the other part. They're showing you how to do it. They're not saying, let me be everything to you. They're saying, here's what you need to do. When Dr. Colvin said to me, Keith, this is what you need to do to put your books in this particular situation. She then said, here's the resources. Go ahead and work with them.
Now, but see, the other part of that is this, Keith.
Uh-huh.
When people come to me for advice,
Uh-huh.
the first thing I do is ask questions.
Of
And they
course.
get frustrated.
Yeah.
Sometimes. It's like, I just need you to tell me what to do. Okay, but I need data. I'm a data girl.
I need it.
And so when you talk about trust, I can't let us fly past that without talking about the fact that, and y'all, okay, this might be one of those, as one of my friends says, I'm toe stepper. You can't trust people because you can't trust you.
And you got to hold that. You asked for it.
Trust your spidey senses. And it's a whole thing. So let's go back through it, right? Let's reverse engineer it. You don't trust people. You don't trust you. You don't trust your spidey senses to keep you safe. You don't trust your discernment. You don't trust that your things is thinging.
Ain't trusting God.
Also, all of that. You don't trust you because you don't know you authentically.
Come on now. Come on. So what?
Okay, yeah, you don't trust that person or none of these people, but why though? I'm not saying you got to. I'm saying, but why though? That's my question.
Yeah, that's big, and that's big because that opens up the door. The why and the how, and I talk about this often, guys. The who, what, where, and when are easy. The 5 W's and the H. The who, what, where, when, easy. It'll always come down to do these two things: the how and then the why, or the why and then the how. So once you figure out why, well, the next step is how do we do? Or once I know how to do it, now I have to keep my why in place to help me continue it. So as we start to figure out what it is that we want to fix or what it is that we want to change, everything will start to fall in place. And this is what I mean by honest help triggers autonomy. I'm going to say that again. Honest help triggers autonomy. I am only as good as I am as a counselor when you can take care of you. I'm not doing anything if I have you so drugged out waiting for the session each week that you go, you know what, cool. No, it is you figuring out, thanks, Keith, I got it now. I got the car. Go ahead, I'm going to drive off. Cool. And that's important. And that's what this is. This is what the Katt Williams situation triggered for us. It's not a knock on Katt at all. He's going to be who he is. And I can't speak super deep on somebody I don't know, but I know what I see. Yeah. And I know what I feel about what I see. And I know what I've seen in other people. Yeah. In reference to, just in a short time from what he said. And some of you now, I believe, when you go out in your internet streets, you're going to see some of the conversations about him where people are going to be piecemealing their pain onto what he said or did, and they're going to use that as an opportunity to kind of project their pain out from themselves for two reasons. One, to purge, and two, to hurt other people. I'm going to say, misery loves company, but so does happiness. We forget that part. Misery loves company, but so does happiness. That's why as soon as something good happens to you, what do you want to do? You got to call somebody. You got to talk somebody. You run up to somebody on the street. Hey, you may not know me. I just passed my exam. Okay, thank you. Get away from me, but okay.
When I finished my dissertation, I was in the nail shop like, hey, I just finished my dissertation. The lady's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right. Well,
I was like, yeah, you'll be able to find it on ProQuest. We in the nail shop. She ain't looking on ProQuest.
It has been an hour and a half, and I know you said 30, 40 minutes, but I like, okay, I just said yes because I knew once I got you on, you was going to keep talking. We good. But be respectful of your time. I want you to take the next couple of minutes to everybody watching. So, guys, get out your pens, get out your tablets, get out everything. Doc is going to run down everything that she has going on and everywhere that you could reach her because, as I said to you at the beginning, you're going to want to reach out to her to use her expertise or just to follow her because she's going to give you a lot of things. And when you do follow her, right, I want you to send her this message, say, hey, could you tell me about Jay-Z and DMX? And just, we're not going to get into it today, but when you follow her, say, hey, could you tell me about how you feel about Jay-Z and DMX? And it'll make for a great conversation. But again, I want to say personally, Doc, thank you. This is a great way to start the year off that we've had a chance to talk. We talk, so it works out. But I'm glad you came up with the idea and that we've had the chance to share. So you guys in the chat, before Doc runs down her situation, while I have her here, are there any questions that you want to ask Doc or myself from the conversation or something related to the conversation that we could gladly answer? Because I think I caught most of the questions. And Tina, I see you doing your thing in the chat as always. You are fantastic, Tina. I'm always going to give you your flowers. So glad I came across this conversation. Thank you, Tashina. Hey, before you guys go, let's get a bunch of purple hearts for Tina and for Doc as our way of saying thank you for them being here. So let's put a bunch of purple hearts in the
Tina
chat.
is the GOAT. I see you.
Tina has been doing her thing. Come on, let's put some purple hearts in the chat to say thank you. There we go, Tina. And again, let's put those in the chat to say thank you to Tina and to Doc for taking the time out today because I can't do this by myself and nor would I try. And I am so happy to be able to call on people like Dr. Colvin and to have Tina here in the chat every week who stepped in when Ellie got a new job because Ellie tells me she wants to be here, but she got to make her money. And I ain't mad at that. So Tina said, I'll step in to be a moderator. And I am super excited to have her here. So I thank her. And I see the purple hearts. Thank you so much. Okay. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat. We'll answer them. But Doc, while they're thinking about what questions, give them a rundown of everything you got going on, what they can find you, and do they got to take a second loan to be able to be like, I want that?
Yeah. I'll do it. Oh, listen, today is the 5th of January. We are 5 days in, and let me tell y'all, so for those of y'all who came in a little later, I am Dr. Tarkessa Colvin. I have a PhD in organizational leadership and management. My mission is to help women build and grow businesses that don't crush them in the process. And why do I do that? Because I built a whole business that damn near killed me. I was making the money, but I had a doctor that actually said, what do you do for a living? And I was all proud. I was like, I'm an entrepreneur. And they was like, can you stop? I was like, say what now? Some more now? And so they were like, we're going to put you on these 2 blood pressure medicines and we're going to ask you to do this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I am in my 40s and I just don't feel like I need to take a handful of pills to navigate my day. And so that spawned a whole other movement for me. And like I said, my mission is to help women grow their businesses more effectively. And it goes towards what I mentioned earlier for those of you who were here. There's a difference between mindset and mentality. I had the mindset tools to lead a business, but I didn't have the mentality. That meant what I had to learn was that success did not mean I didn't have to get support. And so from that was born what's called the Pampered and Paid Summit. I have the Pampered and Paid Summit coming up at the end of the month. You can actually check on my profile, but I'm going to tell you, check it out. Our special all access rate ends today. You get all access. And I have some gifts for my all access people. Someone was on earlier and I recognized the name and they got their all access pass. I reached out to them. I said, you want a strategy session? And they were like, yeah. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to give everybody a strategy session, but I'm going to give you something. But let's talk a little bit about the Pampered and Paid Summit. The Pampered and Paid Summit is where I bring together, and our theme this year is wealth, wellness, and entrepreneurship. I am dedicated to making you a part of the all crowd, not the or crowd, the all crowd. You can have it all. It's just a matter of what your all is. We tend to think that all is whatever somebody else said. What's your all? You want family, finances, business. You want to be a speaker, a writer, and a wife all at the same time without having to put something down. You need a strategy for that. You don't have to work yourself to death. You have to have a hard working strategy. And that's my jam. That's my jam. I'm not going to tell you what I heard. I'm going to tell you what I know, and I'm going to give you the tools that you need. And it's not just me. I have about 17 other experts coming in and talking. One expert, when I tell you she talks about that money, I saw her post this morning. I said, it's early and you snatching edges. She said, maybe it's not. She was like, maybe you don't need to put down the Netflix. Maybe you really need to move out of the apartment that had all them amenities you don't use. I was like,
Mm,
early
mm,
in the morning?
mm.
Right. So they're talking, it's real practical information. And for my business owners, I have someone that's coming in to talk about sales and why you can't do it.
Yeah.
One of my
Important.
principles is that you can't sell in your business because you don't believe you. Goes back
Yeah.
to trust.
Yeah.
Goes back to trust. So,
Somebody might believe you if you look a little shaky yourself. Mm.
okay, if you get to the point where you're selling and then you're trying to say, and then if you come in and you do, is it the $19? What?
Come on.
Anyway,
Come,
and
come on.
my whole thing is, especially for women, we struggle to be CEOs. We struggle to be CEOs. We're CFOs in our lives, right?
Mhm.
We're COOs in our lives. But when it comes to our businesses, we struggle. We struggle to show up and say, listen, I'm the boss, damn it. I don't want to write emails. So I'm going to get someone to do it. And we
Exactly.
psych ourselves out of investing in our business. And so I invite you to come to the Pampered and Paid Summit because I want you to be a part of the and crowd, the all crowd. You can have all of the things that you want. You just have to have a strategy to get there and stay there. So in order to join us for Pampered and Paid, go to pamperedandpaidsummit.com, grab your all access pass. And if you would like, send me a message and let me know you got your all access pass and let me see what I can do for you.
Actually, and let me just say something to you guys. And it's not just, oh, okay, here come the pitch. No, we're in business. This is what we do.
We are in business.
I can tell you I am the recipient of that gifting heart that this young lady has, and I'm gonna tell you why. I'm in a different business community that invited Sarkessa to come in to speak. And when she came, she was talking about publishing books. And I have a publishing company that I started back in 2010, and I've worked and I've published my own books. When she made comments, I literally was at a hotel in Massachusetts. I was like, I'll just catch the replay. Something inside me said, no, you need to watch this. So I was like, all right. My daughter was doing her thing, and okay, the whole COVID thing. So she's doing her in the hotel schoolwork. And I sat down, and when Tarkessa started talking, she said, you can make this amount of money, $250,000 from a book. I was like, oh, here come the BS. I ain't got no time for this. But then she started speaking, and she started talking. And by the time we got to the end of the hour, she said, for today, I'm going to give X, Y, and Z at this price. I don't normally sell it. I wasn't hesitating. I was actually, as she was giving the website, I was on the thing purchasing, and I'm going to tell you why. What she said, or what she was saying, was speaking to my heart because I was honest with myself. She's right. She started laying out the pieces that I had. I just didn't know how to put them together. So when I paid for the product, and then she said, well, I'm going to let you come into the group as well. And then from the group, it was, I'm going to give you this. And let me tell you where hard work pays off. She has a vault. Well, she creates them. She got them all over. Trust me when I tell you. She has a vault of all this information, right? And I was going to the vault, and she was like, Keith, I know you in there. Yes, I'm in there again. I was like, but when the other people didn't do what they supposed to, she said, I'm shutting it all down. But she said, I'm going to leave the vault open for you because I know you're using it. Let me tell you why that's important. She had no reason to. She had already gotten my money. She had already gave me access to the vault. I was already using it. So she could have shut it all down and said, hey, Keith. And what she did to the group, she said, hey, guys, I'm shutting this down. Y'all will no longer have access to the vault but she said, Keith, I'm going to give you a lifetime access because I know you're using what I'm teaching. But what I also gained is a direct connection to have conversations with her, which is built into a friendship, which is now built into me being able to reach out and say, can I ask you a question? Well, anytime you can have a direct connection with somebody who's doing work at a higher level, you grow. If you allow yourself to be poured into. Jesus always asked a question. You sure you want to see? Sure you want to eat? And the reason why he was asking, not that he didn't already know, he
Right.
wanted you to be firm on what you were asking for or what was about to come from. Now, she just gave me, I'm not going to share the words she gave me. She told me to be prepared. And I ain't going to lie, when she first told me, I was like, but then a part of me said, this is the same woman that helped. You know what? I'm ready. Let's go. Because I had to gear up and realize when she says some things are going to come my way, if I trust her, and that's the key, then I'm prepared. But I still have to be prepared when the blessing comes. Yeah. Any of you in the chat right now who's having doubts, who are struggling, not sure what you want to do, you have two professionals in front of you that we can help you with something. I don't know what it is until you share it with me. She won't know what it is. Doctor won't know what it is until you share it with her. But what I do know from the two of us, one of us is going to hit on something to at least help bring light to an area you wasn't sure about. That I can guarantee you. Now, we may not be able to fix everything, but we can at least bring to the table the talents, the knowledge, and experience. By you being connected to me, you got connected to her.
And that listen, the part that Keith didn't mention, I can't remember all of the details of that in that first encounter, but he was like, he was shrinking, and he was like, I'm gonna do so and so. I was like, no, I'm not gonna accept that. I was like, no, thank you. And he was like, it's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, nah, because it was just his demeanor. I remember I could see his face, and I could see he came in, and in his head was this cap.
I was about to put my camera off.
As soon as he came in. And so in one of my old businesses, that's one of the things that I did is I have a formula that's called the $254,000 per book formula. It works.
Yes, Nina.
I'm telling he was like, and when we talked, when I opened it up and we were doing Q&A and things like that, and people were asking questions, and I'm like, I feel like you got some questions, and he was like,
oh, now I got a shot. Let's go. Now I can say something.
And that's how I am. I have God-given talents, and I have God-given gifts. Those are two different things. And one thing about me is I'm going to show up in a ferocious way to support you. And I just have one rule. It's called Tessa's Fight Club rule. I can't want it more than you.
That part right there.
And you've heard Keith talk about how I shut a container down that I had created. My thing is, I didn't question it because the word says, don't cast your pearl among swine. Not that the people were swine, but they were not valuing the information that I was putting out there. And I got the proof. I know it works. I don't just want your money. I want testimonials. I want people to be like, it works. It's one thing for me to say it. It's a whole other thing when you got a gaggle of people behind you that's saying what she teaches works. And so if you're not going to do the work, what are we in here for? I'm not trying to facilitate that energy.
Exactly.
Keith hit on it. I had someone that said, listen, I got in here prematurely. I wasn't ready. And while at the time, like, don't try me though, while at the time, I had a, no refund policy, I went ahead and gave her money back because you know what? I don't want to hold you hostage. You made a good assessment of yourself and where you are now. Here's your money.
Yeah.
And God bless you. Godspeed. Now, do I help people start businesses? I don't. Do I help them grow? I do. And the reason that I need to do that is because you got to have skin in the game too.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about your ideas. I want to talk about what you learned from the actions that you've taken.
That part is super big because if you got something to lose, you're going to fight harder than the person helping you. And it has to be that way. And that's why Jesus asked the questions. Jesus had all the power in the world, but he wanted to see if you were ready. When the woman with the issue of blood rolled up and touched, he said, who touched me? He already knew.
I already knew.
No, if you was going to continue to fight, you fought your way to get here. You fought your way to touch me. But now are you ready to do the work? Because now everybody's going to come to you and want to have a conversation with you. Are you telling the truth? Are you really cured of what was going on? Are you ready? That's why he said to the man that was blind, you sure you want to see? Because now you don't get to come to the front of the line. You don't get the food handed. You got to work now.
Let me break this down for the business owners in the room. One of my first books that I ever wrote, and it's not in print. I think I'm going to do another edition. It's called The 10 Things the Bible Teaches Us About Business.
Mhm.
When you're in business, people automatically jump to sales. They don't know the process leading up to sales. You have to speak the language of the consumer. You have to make an offer, and then you have to invite them.
Mhm.
Okay. If you think that's not in the Bible, I'm going to ask you, did you read it?
Yeah.
Because the lame man, Jesus said, do you want to be?
Yeah. Do you want it? You sure that's
Right.
what you
He
want?
assessed the situation. He said, okay, my man chilling. It don't seem to be like it's voluntary.
A door.
Right. He, in his mind, he came up with an offer like, I can heal him. And then he invited that gentleman to partake in the offer.
Yeah.
That's business.
Yeah. That's
That's
it.
business. And
That's it.
Joseph, my favorite story, that's a whole bunch of lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody right over here need to hear this. Joseph was down in the dungeon, maybe not living his best life, looking a little rough, a little raggedy. But his name was still out there making ways for him. So when
Because of
Pharaoh
in that
called
door.
for him,
Mm-hmm.
Pharaoh said, bring me that guy.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing Joseph did was he got cleaned up. Because even though there's a demand, my presentation matters. That's
Yeah.
business.
I gotta look the part.
Look, I ain't gonna do this with y'all, but but yeah, if you've got questions, I know we wrapping up.
Yeah.
If you've got questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to see you at the Pampered and Paid Summit. Keith, I thank you so much for just the opportunity to be on your platform, for your trust, sir. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Listen, Doc, as always, I wanted folks to see and hear, and it's a great way to start the year. I wanted folks to see and hear what I see and hear when I talk to you, but also because it fits what I do. I'm here to try to help. I'm here to try to create situations for folks. And there's no better way to do that than to let folks see who motivates me. I know a lot, I do a lot, but at the end of the day, I wanted to, especially when you brought it up when we were talking, with the conversations going all over the internet, an opportunity for us to be able to have this conversation. Also, the work that I do, I come back to you to ask, what do you think? What do you consider? Because your professional viewpoint helps me. But also, I need that motivation because I know I'm at a table that you're sitting at. So when I'm sitting at a table with somebody who has a PhD, who's doing quality work, and that person shares with me and I share with them, then I know I'm supposed to be at that table. Now, how do I go back and help somebody else get to this table? When I hear you talk about your husband and I talk about my wife, how do I get my wife to where I want to be? And sometimes when I have doubts, and listen, guys, I'm not just saying this to be saying it. I might be gifted in a lot of areas, and I am. But sometimes even the strong man needs somebody to say, you got this. Remember, there was a point when Moses got tired and his arm started to come down and Amalek started to win the war and the men of Israel were struggling. Well, the two people standing there said, we can't carry your staff. That's your thing. But if we hold your arm up, we know the war will go our way. They understood their role. They understood what was necessary. That's what I'm trying to offer here. Just like now. Now I gotta talk about my own stuff too. The webinar that I got coming up, the reason why I made it $24.99, let me explain this to you. Because I listened to the information that you guys gave me on the questionnaire. I could have said, you know what? For an hour and a half, I'm charging what I normally charge for a counseling session. No, I made it the price that I made it because it's more important that I get you off to the side so we can talk, so I can give you a deeper look at toxic relationships. Because when we get into the group, I'm going to need you to give me this, and we're going to have this, and I'm going to invite people to come and speak. And I know other people too, but I can't have them come until we build it. I can't invite now. Turkessa knows me. So when we had the conversation, we thought it'd be great. And it turned out to really be great. But I'm not going to tell somebody else, hey, show up if I'm not sure that you guys are actually going to interact. And again, shout out to you, Tina. Shout out to everybody. Hey, shout out to Ali Hooper was like, yo, bro, I'm not really sure what you talking about. And I like that too. Because that's what Turkessa was saying about being able to agree and disagree without it becoming negative. I have no problem with somebody not believing me. I have a problem if you try to attack me. We don't do that here. This is a safe space. And I knew I was inviting her into a safe space. And I want to say this to anybody in this chat. You will not be disappointed if you do any work with Dr. Colvin, because it will pay off if you do the work. I just wanted to say that as we come close to 1:30, again, sometimes you guys got to end on a great note, and I think this is a good one. Is there any questions while I still have Doc here before we get ready to shut this down and go on about our days? Because I still have a counseling session, one for today before my weekend start. So is there any questions that you guys have, or offer some feedback in the chat? Let me hear from you guys. What is something that you took from today? Put it in the chat. Tell me what you got from today's conversation. Somebody drop it in the chat. Let's see what you guys got from today, or just simply offer some flowers to the doc there, and just whatever you want to do. Let me hear from you guys in the chat, because again, this is why I do it. Thank you so much. I see it. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I see him.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Come on. Anybody want to offer something they got from the day, or just say thank you to the dog, or any questions? Come on, we're here for it. Thank you for the roses. Appreciate it.
Love it.
We're going to shut it down in about 2 minutes. So again,
I think we gave him a lot to think about.
Yeah, listen, there's a lot. And the thing that I love is that the multiple perspectives gives folks a chance to cipher through. There you go. All right, Abdul. I appreciate that. Thank you, Tina. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Tina.
And I am so glad that you guys, and remember, this is going to be over on replay, over on my YouTube page. Normally take me about a day or two. Just look for it. So anybody that missed it. So if you go talk to anybody and say you missed a good one today, couple of days, just send them over to my YouTube page, which is in the link in my bio. All my professional links is in my bio. I know I'm going to send Doc. She going to do what she do with it as well, because she don't let nothing rest. So there'll probably be a whole program next to this. So if y'all see like a whole, they go, wait a minute, I was watching that. Yeah, she is the repurposed queen, and I'm learning that. She will take anything and turn it into a course. Listen, I'm learning that. So she's gifted in that area. Thank you. Missed most of the live, but I heard enough to be intrigued. Love it, Sunshine Hunter. Appreciate that. We can apply biblical principles to any life situation. Thank you for sharing it. Yes, amen. That's one of the things that the Bible was supposed to be used for, but men turned and women turned it into something different. It's supposed to be a guide for us. And when used the right way, it still is a guide that I use on a regular. I use it in my counseling sessions and when I go and speak. Thank you both. Positive perspectives. Yes, appreciate that. And I thank you for the kind words, guys, because again, this is a safe space. This space is an intellectual safe space because we want you to grow. I want you to have a conversation with your circles. Hey, Donna, I want you to have a conversation in your circles once this camera is off. I want you to be able to go, hey, I heard these two, continue the conversation, and then come find us. Yeah. Let us know that you heard us. Let us know what you talked about. Or if you need our services, reach out and say, let's time to do some business. Hey, Lori. Thank you, Lori. Appreciate that.
Connect with me on this platform. I love this. This is one of my favorites, I think. But feel free to connect with me on this platform. And I would love to see what conversations, what thoughts were sparked for you.
All right. So we're going to get ready to go. And again, you guys know the book is 12 Steps to Recover from a Toxic Relationship. The link is in my bio. The link for the webinar, From Chaos to Joy. It is going to be February 18th, Sunday at 2 o'clock, the week after the Super Bowl. So if you can't remember the date, just go whatever day the Super Bowl is. The next week is Keith's webinar. And we're going to get into an hour and a half conversation of toxic relationships. And I will have some course information for you. And I should have some information with you on the new group, because I am building the safe, private space for us to be able to get to, and really, so this way we can interact, because that weekly Zoom call will be big, because now I get to hear from you. I get to listen to you. We get to talk to each other. We get to see each other. We get to build our community into something that can be a resource to everybody that's involved. That is my plan. And I'm working that plan slowly but surely, but I got to take steps in order first. So if there's nothing else, Doc, I personally want to say thank you. I appreciate you coming on with me. It made for a great start of the year. And to everybody else, to Tina, thank you. And to everybody else in the chat, I appreciate you. We're going to get ready to go. Doc, any last words that you want to get? Hey, shout out from Michigan. Let's go, Mary.
Hey, all right. Words? East side of Detroit over here. Okay.
Let's go. You want to offer before we close out?
Absolutely. If you remember nothing else, remember that you have a lot more power in your life than you believe.
Amen.
Than you have been believing.
Amen.
And as soon as you tap into that, you can create, you can co-create, you can develop whatever it is that you would like for your legacy to look like. You just got to tap in.
Well, I'm going to end it right there. I think you said it right there. And I appreciate you, Doc. Blessings to you. Have a great weekend. We'll talk soon. Everyone, have a great weekend and Happy New Year to everyone. God bless. Take care, guys.